Are you familiar with the 1400s? If not, let me set the stage. It was the era before the Reformation, and one friar stood above just about everyone else in the historical significance of the church. This is Speedrunning Church History. There was once a Dominican friar in the 1400s named Google? Help.
Girolamo Savonarola.
Right, so Savonarola was the most published author of the century. Speaking of published authors, I highly recommend the biography on Savonarola by Douglas Bond and Douglas McComas. I'm having a hard time with the pronunciations here. Anyway, Savonarola boldly spoke out against evil practices and false doctrines that engulfed religion at that time. In fact, he rebelled against the Pope and boldly claimed that the Pope was no Christian. Luther said that he maintained justification by faith alone without works. The friar even said himself that no one can glory in himself, all the saints say, not of us but of the Lord is glory. They were not saved by their merit, nor by their work, but by the goodness and grace of God, that nobody may glory in himself. This certainly sounds like something that Luther or Calvin could have written. In my estimation, Savonarola understood the gospel correctly. With all that said, he did have some funky views that many of us would disagree with. However, in Savonarola we see a man that loved Jesus, wanted to reform the church, and would be willing to die for those convictions. I'd like to tell you a notable story from Savonarola's life. I will quickly be summarizing the story as there's much more to what happened, so this is a simplified timeline of events. Savonarola lived in Florence. The area was ruled by the powerful de' Medici clan, and the headship of the family had just been given to the young and naive Piero de' Medici. The people of Florence did not care for the family since they ruled as tyrants and often forgot the common man. At the time, King Charles VIII was having a squabble with the Pope about the territory of Naples. Charles then decided to march his seemingly invincible army to Naples to try to take possession of it. Charles left a path of destruction behind him as he headed right for Florence, which was sitting helplessly in his path to Naples. Piero de' Medici tried to strike up a bargain with the king's representatives and succeeded. Unfortunately, the deal was so awful that the people of the city ran him out of town. Without his demands met, Charles continued to march to Florence. Without any other hope, the town decided to have their spiritual guide try to talk some sense into the king, and by God's providence, it worked. Savonarola started by thanking the king for ridding the town of the de' Medici family, calling him an instrument sent by the Lord. He then told him that God elected you in the interest of the church. You must obey the Lord. It was a bold move that paid off. Charles relented and his army did not destroy Florence. The people then turned to Savonarola to set up a democracy. Unfortunately, this was short-lived. Due to outside circumstances, which were out of the control of the government, economic hardship fell on Florence. The friar was blamed, the city turned on him. He was removed from his pulpit and was eventually killed by the Catholic Church. This certainly reminds me of Solomon's story in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, in verses 13 to 16. As it states, I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor, wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. But I say that wisdom is better than might, though the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. In these verses, the wise man saved the city, but no one seemed to care just a few years later. Similarly, Savonarola saved Florence, but that was all quickly forgotten. He deserved respect, but instead, he received death. I think that the takeaway from this is that many times doing the right thing will result in unfavorable circumstances for the one doing right. Despite all this, it is still better in God's eyes to act in wisdom rather than with brute force, even if it cost you your life. Consider this. Jesus serves as the greatest example of the innocent sufferer. His murder was unjust, like Savonarola's, but because of it, sinners like you and me can have peace. So don't expect the world to be fair to you. Trust that God will right all wrongs in His time, according to His plan. And the next time that you're a victim of injustice because of your faith in Christ, remember that this is the path that Christians are expected to walk, just like the Friar of Florence did many years ago.